Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. Of course, it is Dick Farrell on Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday. I never saw them happen together at the same time, but I understand in a few years before I was born it did, 1941. Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day on the same day. Happy both of them to you. Where are we going today? Well, you know, I have a feature on this show called The Jerk of the Day. We're going to lead off with that. A little later, Bibi Netanyahu is under fire, but he's giving the Trump treatment to the Israeli press. Fake news, there's nothing there, so nothing will happen, says he. What if your kid came home from school and the assignment that the kid asked you, your son or daughter, Mommy, Daddy, they told me to draw myself as a slave. It happened, and we'll tell you about it. The Me Too tsunami has struck the Olympics, plus there's a California high school teacher who says, Me too, but the harassers are the students. We'll get into that. Russia is meddling in our elections, says Republican U.S. Senator Dan Coates. He's got something to say about that. We'll hear from him. And imagine you look out the window of an airplane you're flying in, and it's falling apart. Whew, it happened on a San Francisco to Honolulu-bound jetliner. We'll show you pictures and tell you about the story from the New York Post. Jail guards are scarce, and nurses and cooks at Club Fed are doubling for them. In Black History, you'll meet the man who's responsible for the soles of your shoes being attached to the uppers of your shoes. He has a German name, but he's black, and it's Black History Month, and you'll learn all about him. The GOP lost another House seat last night, this one in Florida, and the one near Pittsburgh. Even though Trump won by 20 points, could be in jeopardy. We'll tell you about that. Joy Behar, as I mentioned earlier, slammed Vice President Mike Pence because, now here we start this out here now. Vice President Pence believes, according to Omaroso Manigault, who was working in the White House, he believes that Jesus talks to him. Well, Behar proclaimed Pence mentally ill. Let's go to Behar on the View show telling us how mentally ill Vice President Pence is. Can we do that? Let it roll.
He's extreme. I'm Christian. I love Jesus. But he thinks Jesus tells him to say things. I'm like, Jesus ain't say that.
One thing to talk to Jesus. It's another thing when Jesus talks to you.
Exactly. Okay, well, that's different. That's different.
That's called mental illness, if I'm not correct.
But I think...
Hearing voices. Can he talk to Mary Magdalene without his wife in the room?
Joy Behar, the jerk of the day, and here's why. First, she was roundly and soundly told off by none other than Alveda King. Alveda, you know, the niece of the late Dr. Martin Luther King. She said, and I quote, "My uncle spoke to Jesus and he spoke back to him. Is he crazy? I don't think so." Then, of course, there was more fun and games last night on Fox News. We have a fellow by the name of Jesse Waters. He opened up on Bear, along with another character on the show. I think her name was Jessica Tula. Here we have Jessica Tula and Fox News' Jesse Waters letting Joy Behar have it. Fire away on that one.
This is like crumbs. This is like the deplorables. ABC has a real problem on their hands. Imagine if Joy Behar said this about Muslims. I mean, she'd be canned in a second. And for her to say that Christians are mentally ill, I think it was her friends that were screaming at the sky and were beheading Donald Trump. Let me also make one thing clear. Democrats are okay with Reverend Wright speaking to Barack Obama, but they don't want Jesus talking to Mike Pence. This is how insane this is.
All right. Jesse spoke out again with a partner on his show, Hannity in the middle, and this Jesse Tula, who is a contributor to Fox News. This is how they closed out their little match last night.
Why
what
is
she's
The
doing.
View denigrating Omarosa when she gets canned, calling her a liar and a pariah, and then a couple months later hoisting her up and using her as a source?
For ratings. Everything is for ratings always, Jesse.
Right. I feel like I need to go to confession after watching The View because it feels like listening to Joy is a sin. Speaking of sin, Omarosa said she wanted to sleep with Piers Morgan for ratings
Yeah,
and then
I saw
called him
that.
gay when he denied her. The whole thing's disgusting. I need to wash my hands after this segment.
I feel like I have to change diapers after a segment like that. But be that as it may, let's turn the clock around a little bit, change the colors and the pictures. What if it was Keith Ellison, the congressman from Minnesota? You know, they always say Minnesota, so I'm just mimicking them. What if Ellison had said that Allah speaks to him? You might know that Ellison is a devout Muslim, and he has said that Allah speaks to him. How come Joy Behar didn't call him crazy? Because if she did, just like Waters said, she'd be fired in a New York minute, maybe even faster. We got a picture of Ellison, don't we? Let's take a look at Ellison, because I also want to talk about some of the things he's done in this piece by Martina Marcotto. She tells us in the Daily Caller today a little bit about what Ellison has been up to.
Minnesota Representative Keith Ellison, the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee, tweeted an apparent endorsement of a violent left-wing group, Antifa. The Department of Homeland Security says Antifa is responsible for domestic terrorist violence. This isn't the first time Ellison publicly attached himself to radical figures and ideologies. Ellison has defended a famous anti-Semite, advocated for black nationalism, compared the 9/11 attack to the Reichstag fire, and claimed that black people don't live in a democracy and therefore don't have an obligation to obey government laws. Ellison's anti-Semitic statements created division within the Democratic Party when he vied for the DNC chair, vacated by Debbie Wasserman Schultz. The Anti-Defamation League called on the DNC to disqualify Ellison, but party leaders refused. Tom Perez's first act as DNC chair was to name Ellison his number 2.
And just in case you forgot who Louis Walcott from Boston, Massachusetts is, a.k.a. Calypso Louis Farrakhan, he was once a Calypso singer. Farrakhan has said some real nasty stuff over the years. I decided to refresh your memory about what a wonderful, fun-loving guy he is and how he thinks that all mankind are just all wonderful people and we should love each other. Let's hear what Louis Farrakhan had to say about his fellow human beings.
The white man is not the real man. That's right. He's a made human being from you. If you look at that white man, he's a lying thing and a murderous human being. There is no human being on earth that has murdered more living things than the Caucasian. He's a murderer and a liar. Take it or leave it, brother. Don't you send these children out here with the thought of murder in their mind. Oh, yes, I am. It's putting to death time today. You know how mommy said when it's time to sleep, you've been raising hell all day? Betty, bye-bye. Time to go bye-bye. Time to go to sleep. Well, it's time for the white man's mind to be put to eternal rest.
That is so you are reminded of who Louis Farrakhan is, and the second man in command of the entire Democrat National Party is his best friend, who shows up with him at appearances and meets with him regularly. Keith Ellison, U.S. House of Representatives from Minnesota, just so that you know. As well as Barack Obama, who took many pictures and met with and corralled with Mr. Farrakhan over the years. Let's go to Kansas. We have, who's in Kansas, did you say? Jonah, glad you could dial into the Dick Farrell and Newsmax TV program. Hello.
Yeah, Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I just got a real simple. Everybody's worried about our election being hacked and everything like that. I got a real simple fix. How about we just go back to paper ballots?
Well, you know, the largest democracy.
Get all the machines, everybody hand count them again, and we'll do it that way.
The largest democracy in the world, nearly 1 billion human beings. The country is called India. They are using paper ballots, and they count them in a huge glass box in the middle of an auditorium. And they've yet to have a problem with counting ballots. But, you know, Jonah, I think it's a lot more to do with everything that happens before Election Day than the actual counting of the ballots. But you raise a good point. We should maybe think about going back a little bit. Let's go to Joe in Texas. You're next on Newsmax TV. Good afternoon, Joe.
Good Wednesday, Dick. Let's 2 points on Miss Amorosa. I'm a Christian. I love Jesus because he first loved me. Now, let us not mock the name of Jesus, because if something happens to us, don't blame it on Jesus, blame it on our mocking. And three reasons, Dick, why we the people voted for the Trump-Pence ticket. One main thing is while we're celebrating Black History Month, okay, abortion. They are against. Trump-Pence is against abortion, murdering black babies, and not just black, but mainly black babies and Hispanic babies and white babies and Asian babies, but mainly black babies, and then we wonder why. And against homosexuality, against transgenders in the military. Now, I'll leave you with one of my famous songs.
Go ahead.
Papas, don't let your babies grow up to be gay.
Thanks a lot for the call, Joe. Glad you were part of the Dick Farrel Newsmax TV program this afternoon. I need to warn and advise you all that at some point during the show, we may very well be interrupted for a presidential or White House press briefing. In fact, I've just been told we will be interrupted by a presidential press briefing or speech. I've grown to become acquainted with this event and learned to have accepted it and to work within the boundaries of these configurations. Not a problem for me, but maybe for you a little bit. We'll try and help it out. In fact, Monday we will. Dick Farrell will appear this Monday, President's Day, from 2 to 4 p.m. instead of 2 to 3 p.m. Glad to do it for you. I believe is Todd Schnitt maybe taking off today. That's why I'm filling in. We got a lot more to do. If we have time, we'll get to it. Like there's a judge in New York who has put the kibosh on President Trump's, some of his ideas about immigration, including DACA. We'll get into that. We'll find out a whole bunch more about that, as well as hear from some players. Right here on Newsmax TV. I'm Dick Farrell. Don't go away. Welcome back. We will be pausing for a White House press briefing momentarily. Stay right where you are. We'll get all the information in just a moment. It is Wednesday, February 14, both Ash Wednesday and Valentine's Day together in one. That means yesterday was Fat Tuesday. And I can't understand how it happened so early. Usually it's the last Wednesday or the first Wednesday in March. But a rare thing with the calendar, I suppose. If you've got your ashes, good for you. If you've got your sweetheart of Valentine, good for you too. Wish you well. Enjoy the day. Black History is all of February, and today we meet the man who made shoes easy for everyone to get. His name was Jan Ernst Matzelinger. Sounds like a very Aryan German name, right? Well, it is, but he's black. He had no welfare, no food stamps, no Section 8 housing, no affirmative action, no forced busing, no set-asides. He had no white people helping him to do anything. Ted Kennedy wasn't standing there saying, I feel sorry for you. None of that. And the crybaby NFL players who are multimillionaires, they weren't complaining about the way he was treated either. No, Jan Matzelinger did it all by himself, even at a time when racism was institutionalized in America. Jan Matzelinger invented a shoe-making machine so that everyone, rich and poor alike, would be able to wear them. Here, roll tape.
And in 1883, on March 20th, he was granted a patent by the U.S. Patent Office. Demand for a machine that attached the top of the shoe to the sole was so great that the government granted over 100 patents from 1880 to 1892 to inventors who tried to solve the problem. But Matzeliger's machine was the only one that stood the test of time. When Matzeliger's drawings arrived in Washington, the experts in the patent office didn't understand them, and one of them had to go to Lynn to study it. Then the machine was ready for a factory test and broke the record by lasting 75 pairs of women's shoes. The machine became widely used, and a school was set up to show people how to use it. It drew students from all over the world.
Jan Ernst Matzelinger, a great American who happened to be black, on Black History Month. February 14 is the 45th day of the year. There are 320 days left to go. It is both Valentine's Day and it is also Valentine's Day. Let's go to Tony in Virginia. You're next on Newsmax TV. Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Dick, how are you?
I feel good.
All right, James Brown.
Yeah, that's
hey,
it.
I've got one quick question. If Obama can send $150 billion at 2 a.m. in the morning to Iran without Congress and Senate's approval, why can't Trump send $25 billion to the border and have them start digging?
Because what the previous president did was illegal. And Mr. Trump is a man who honors the law and the principles and traditions of this great nation. He cares about the things he does and the way he does them. He follows the law. POTUS 44 was not concerned with that. That should answer your question.
I don't know how far his ethics are going to get him. I actually worked on the post office building in D.C., and I know he's hardcore. So I think they're going to push him to the point where he's going to start doing things that he thinks is best. But that's just my opinion.
Well, you know, you've got another New York judge shot down his DACA plans, and DACA itself was unconstitutional to begin with. And even the 44th president said he can't do it because he knows it's unconstitutional. Months later, he did it anyway, and now it comes to March 5th when it expires. And like the president now says, if they don't make a deal, it'll never happen. Thanks a lot for the call, Tony. Glad you were able to dial in. 1-877-Newsmax. Let's take a look at today in history. It is February 14th. It was on this day 100 years ago the Russians reworked the calendar. You know, the famous Russian calendar? Well, they eliminated 13 days, and they started before January 31st. And it's also the 100th anniversary of Sinbad, starring Al Jolson, featuring Rockabye with Your Baby. Here, we got a little piece of it from 100 years ago. Let's hear what it sounds like.
Rockabye, your rockabye baby, with that Dixie melody.
Al Jolson, 100 years ago today on Broadway, Rockabye, your Dixie melody. On this day in 1912, Arizona became the last of the lower 48. Happy birthday, Arizona. We got a picture of Arizona to show everyone? I think we do. President William Howard Taft signed a proclamation making Arizona a 48th state 106 years ago today. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre took place in Chicago on this very day in 1929. We have a little newsreel footage for you about what happened that day. Let's go do that.
At around 10:30 a.m., Moran's henchmen were waiting for their boss when two uniformed policemen raided the joint. Bad luck, boys. The police were actually Capone's men in costume. Capone's phony cops lined Bugs' goons up against the wall, and then the rattle of Tommy guns rang out. But Capone's men missed the main target, Bugs Moran, because he showed up late for the meeting. Good day to sleep in, Bugs. Even though Moran lived, his gang was in shambles. The mob wars were over. Capone became the undisputed boss of the Chicago underworld, and no one was ever convicted for the killings. Over the ages, billions of Valentines have been sent, some from lovers, some from secret admirers, but none of them have lived on like Al Capone's message to a rival gang in 1929. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
It was a cold and snowy day in Chicago as Capone's gang gunned down the remnants of the Moran gang back on this day in 1929. And birthdays today include, of all people, 97-year-old Hugh Downs. Hugh Downs is pictured here in this next piece at the program called Concentration when he was only 37 years old. By the way, the contestant named Walter Farrell, although from my hometown and also a veteran of NYPD like me, he's not related. Here, let's see what Hugh Downs looked like 60 years ago on Concentration on NBC.
Thank you, Art James, and welcome everyone to Concentration, the television game where the ability to concentrate pays off. And Walter, we haven't met before, but you're Walter Farrell. You are a police sergeant, is that right?
That's right, yes.
We'll behave. You understand how the game is played?
Yes, I do.
All right, you ready to do battle?
I hope so.
In a minute, we'll play Concentration.
Happy birthday, number 97, for the one and only Hugh Downs, who would later become an ABC News anchor. Also birthdaying today is former New York City Mayor. Show his picture. Michael Bloomberg is 76. Happy birthday, Mr. Mayor. Also birthdaying today, Pat O'Brien, a TV personality, turning 70. And we've got two gridiron stars who are also birthdaying today. Jim Kelly, a Hall of Famer, 58 today, while Drew Bledsoe is 46. There they are. Good men all, of course, and I wish them a very happy birthday on this, the 14th day of February. Our thought for today comes from Jack Benny. He said, age is something that doesn't matter unless you are a cheese. Jack Benny said that. Thought for today. All right, gentlemen and ladies, I'm Dick Farrell. I must remind you we will be interrupted for, and it's a good thing because we want you to hear what's going to happen. There will be a presidential White House press conference coming your way in just a few minutes right here on Newsmax TV, and we'll be standing by for that. Imagine, I'm going to try and start off this story anyway, as on our way towards the break. Imagine your kid is sent home from school with the assignment of drawing themselves as though they were a slave. Would that upset you? Well, an Austin, Texas parent is mighty upset this Wednesday afternoon because that's what happened on Monday. She says the school had, quote, some blank sending home her student with that as a homework assignment. All right, we're going to stand by for a moment or two, and we have a news update coming your way, plus we'll check in Washington, D.C. with the White House press conference. I'm Dick Farrell. This is Newsmax TV. If we continue with more of this program a little later, I have more to tell you about. If not, well, I'll see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on Newsmax TV. We are always welcome to participate at 1-877-NEWSMAX. We've gotten a reprieve. That's right. The presidential press conference, actually the White House press conference, will be at 3 p.m. Eastern. Stand by. That's when you'll get to see it. Until then, it's you and me. And you're welcome to call in at 1-877-NEWSMAX. Feel free to, say what's on your mind. I'll listen to you. Is Russia actually meddling in our elections? We know that President Obama said, quite emphatically, that it's impossible for anyone to interfere in our elections. He said that numerous times during the course of the 2016 campaign. And yet, here we are today wondering whether or not they can or have or will do it again. Well, the meddling may or may not go on, but I got to ask you a question. I've yet to see one person in the USA who voted in the 2016 election who believes that their vote was somehow coerced to vote for Donald Trump by the Russians or anyone else for that matter. I just wonder, can you find one person? You can't. you've got a better chance of finding the Titanic sailing into New York today, 106 years late, with everybody on board and fully intact. All right, President Trump has warned. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Dan Coats here. Dan Coats is the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, the director of national intelligence. He, during a Senate Intelligence Committee hearing, told us that the worst scenario is upon us for the 2018 election. Here he is in testimony before Congress.
We expect Russia to continue using propaganda, social media, false flag personas, sympathetic spokesmen, and other means to influence to try to build on its wide range of operations and exacerbate social and political fissures in the United States. There should be no doubt that Russia perceived that its past efforts as successful and views the 2018 U.S. midterm elections as a potential target for Russian influence operations.
Well, Dan Coats was a U.S. Senator from Indiana before he took up the job as Director of Intelligence. Well, anyway, regardless of what his job is, the important thing there is, are the Russians going to meddle in our election, and how do we prevent it? And if they're going to meddle, who are they meddling for? Would they meddle in favor of Republicans who are pretty much seeking to keep the Russians in check, pretty much seeking to build up our military, which would threaten them? The Republicans are the people who really aren't good pals with the Russians. However, turn the key around. It's Hillary Clinton who made sure they got $20 billion in uranium. It's the Russians who were involved in the election scandal of the primary in the Democrat Party during the 2016 election cycle. It seems like the Russians' best buddies are the Democrats. Why would they be afraid of election meddling since it seems to favor them? But Coats is correct. It's not just Russians. It's Iranians, North Koreans, individuals, criminal elements of all kinds, all looking to defraud us of our rights and our liberty. Anyway, we're going to take a little break and come back. We'll take a look and see what it looks like to look outside the window of your airplane falling apart while you're over the Pacific Ocean. Not a happy moment. And we'll hear more from that mother in Austin, Texas, whose son came home and said, "Look, Mommy, they want me to paint myself as a slave." Oh, boy. We're coming back. Newsmax TV, your phone calls welcome next, too. I'm Dick Farrell. Glad you can make it today. In fact, glad I can be here on this Ash Wednesday, and happy Valentine's Day. Hello, hello, hello. Glad you could be here. I'm Dick Farrell, and you can always reach out to me on Facebook, DickFarrell. There are 3 pages, one where I'm wearing a pink shirt, one where I'm wearing a blue shirt, and one where I'm wearing no shirt. The no shirt one is under Richard Farrell, and you're welcome to join me anytime you want there on Facebook, and reach out on Twitter if you like, at Talk Radio King, one word. All right, imagine you're at 20,000 feet over the Pacific Ocean, and you're looking out the window and seeing something wrong with one of its wings. You say, "Hey, what's happening here?" Now imagine seeing this. Let's roll that video while I tell folks what it looked like. Here we are on board a California to Hawaii flight, and they're watching the engine cover come off in midair. And as you're looking out the window, you're wondering what the heck's going on. Well, that's exactly what some of these people saw. This video, by the way, courtesy of the New York Post. That's what happened on Tuesday while the United Airlines flight was en route to Honolulu from San Francisco. Passengers were terrified. They posted videos. Quote, "The scariest flight of my life," said Maria Fallish, along with several photos of the exposed engine. "That looks bad," wrote Eric Haddad. "Plain and simple," Plane. The UA flight was about 40 minutes away from its destination when the incident occurred. KGMBT reports that there was a loud bang and then the plane started shaking. There was a loud boom, and then it was like rattling, and the plane was kind of shaking. Boom, boom, boom. Suicidal, said Allison Sudiakal. She had been flying with her 4-month-old son, and they feared the worst. But the good news is the plane landed safely, and everybody's okay. Just, I wouldn't want to see that if I was on board a plane. Scary. All right, a mother near Austin, Texas, was outraged when her 12-year-old daughter's homework was to draw herself as a slave and then color and write a visualization of what she saw around. An Austin TV station reported the incident on Saturday and spoke with the girl's mother, identified as Tonya Jennings. She told the station that she was shocked when her daughter pulled the single-page assignment out of her backpack. Quote, "There's nothing about that slavery that I want any child, regardless of color, to have to relive." The 12-year-old reportedly attends 4 Points Middle School, part of the Leander School District near Austin. The assignment was part of a Texas history lesson regarding the Civil War and the role of slavery played in that war, according to Leander ISD. That's the independent school district. Well, I can tell you this. If I were a parent of a youngster going to that school, I'd be on the phone today screaming and hollering, because that's not something I think we want youngsters to have to experience. Forgive me if you disagree, but maybe tell me why you disagree. Huh? 1-877-Newsmax. A New York district judge in the federal court, Nicholas Garofis, ruled on Tuesday that Attorney General Jeff Sessions has erred in concluding that the DACA is unconstitutional. Well, wait a minute now. And they granted a preliminary injunction sought by State Attorney General and immigrants who had sued the administration. In January, U.S. District Judge William Alsop in San Francisco ruled that the DACA must be remaining in place while litigation surrounding the program is the administration. In January, U.S. District Judge William Alsop in San Francisco ruled that the DACA must be remaining in place while litigation surrounding the program is ongoing. The Supreme Court currently considering whether to take up the Trump administration's appeal of that ruling, still going on. The ruling came down as debate in the Senate on immigration reform struggled to gain traction, with Republican and Democrat leaders struggling to reach common ground on how to move forward. President Trump warned that this was, quote, the last chance to extend protections to the dreamer immigrants before DACA expires March 5. I tell you, it is mighty ugly. But I got to say something here. This is a good time for commentary on this. Why in God's green earth does anybody want to keep loading up this lifeboat with more people? Steve in Kansas, maybe you have an idea. Welcome to Newsmax TV.
No, I just had a question.
X.
Are federal judges appointed for life just like the Supreme Court?
That's right. They are.
Judges. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
All right. Hey, you know, that's something you could have looked up on the internet. But I'm glad you asked me. I feel almost inspired by it all. Prime Minister Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu to some, is under attack. Do we have time to roll that little piece we have on what happened to him? We don't? Shucks. We'll maybe do it in the next break, but I can tell you this. Israeli police Tuesday have declared they have sufficient evidence to indict the prime minister on criminal charges in 2 corruption cases. According to police, they issued a statement published late Tuesday. Authorities found evidence of accepting bribes, fraud, and a breach of trust. In a televised statement, the prime minister said that the allegations against him would be dismissed, repeated what he has become his catchphrase, there will be nothing because there is nothing, in a statement given moments before police issued their final findings. Quote, I think about the good of the country, not only for personal reasons of the press, but only for the country, and nothing will stop me from doing this, not even those attacks against me. All right. Bibi Netanyahu under fire. I'm sure he can take a few lessons from our president on dealing with that. We're back in a few minutes. Don't go away. I'm Dick Farrell. This is Newsmax TV. Glad to be here. Glad you could be here. Your phone calls are welcome. 1-877-Newsmax. I'll try to answer your questions or deal with the conversation however you like, right here on Newsmax TV.